One thing I'd like to ask you, and
Okay.
this is kind of a controversial question.
Woo! Yeah,
That's a bit
this
of
is
a
some
controversy.
controversy
So,
here.
hello, my fellow comic book collectors. Today we're doing another collab video with Keston. So Keston and Old School Comics is his channel. On this, we're going to show our top 5 favorite covers, mostly Golden Age. There might be a little bit of a cheat somewhere from someone. No, no, no finger pointing. Um, we're going to be showing our top 5 covers from the Golden Age mainly, and this should be a really great episode. If you love cover art, this is the episode for you because we're going to be showing some classic covers from the Golden Era. No further ado, let's get into it. Let's get Keston on. He has some amazing books, so let's see what he has to show us.
All right, thanks CCG for having me. I want to kick us off with a book from Alex Schomburg. This is a girl piece and it's airbrushed. And it's part of a series called Starling Comics. And the Starling Comics from 47 through 53 were all airbrushed. It is 49 that gets all the glory. That's the robot cover. But this is also an amazing one. So give me just a second. Starling Comics number 52, an amazing cover. It's underwater and there's a lot of action to it. And this particular cover, by the way, looks good. The front cover, let me show you the back. This is one of those Mylar Heroes, Alan, that it looks really good on the front, but the back, it's got a lot of smut on it. It doesn't look so good. So this is one of those where I think it's like a 9.0 or 9.2 front cover, but on the back, it looks like a 4.0. So I'm hoping it gets a 7 kind of in between.
Oh, that's a great cover. I
Thank you.
really love that cover. That one is actually more affordable. Like, there's some pretty expensive books in that series. That one I thought had one of the best covers, and it's still an expensive book, but it was a little bit more affordable, especially compared to the robot one, which is just insane. I like the good girl in the good girl in the red. It's always that red dress for some reason.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I love that particular cover too because it's underwater, but it almost has that space age vibe to it as well.
Yeah.
And there's just so much going on. There's that globe, I guess, full of air, and you have
Yeah,
that
yeah.
sawfish that's swimming around the globe too, which is pretty fun. So it's an interesting cover, really beautiful in hand as well. And to give the audience sort of a sense, like in a low grade, the book is about $500 to $700, and if you get mid grade, you're looking somewhere between 1,000 and 1,500, and it goes up from there. Thomas Collection sold a copy, and I think it was a 9.8, and it sold for somewhere between 20 and 30 grand. So that's sort of the high end. Is that that Promise Pedigree
that was
book.
recent too, actually. I remember that. Yeah,
it was.
I was watching it. Yeah, I was watching that one. I was like, oh, okay, that's out of my range. I mentioned Alex Schomburg, so I'm gonna try to keep it like whatever you mentioned. I'm gonna balance it off. And
Okay.
you might know this comic because you're the one that sold it to me. So I actually bought this from Keston. So this is Wonder Comics number 15, and this is an Alex Schomburg. I actually like when Alex Schomburg signs his name with the backwards Alex, the Zila. I really like these women in peril bondage covers. So this is like my favorite from the Wonder Comics run. The girl, it's like a microscope. She's like pinned down, and the guy's like about to cut her in half. I just love all those elements. Something with Alex Schomburg, and I'm not sure why it's always this way, but if the hero is just always in the background, and he's like always like late to the game. He's just like, either with the wrong kind of weapon. He looks a little useless. He's got this little gun and he's going up against a giant. So you're not sure how that's going to work. But I just love this cover. I love little tiny women and women in peril. And of course, she's wearing her red dress. You got to have that for Alex Schomburg Golden Age book. So Wonder Comics 15. And thanks, Keston, for selling that to me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
I knew how much you wanted it, and I had a few copies, so I'm glad you got one. And I do agree with you. That gun that he's holding is like a little pea shooter, and you imagine the giant is like 100 feet tall. How is that going to work out? Like I'm going to put my money on the giant.
Yeah, me too. And he's always in the background. It's always like the foreground is always the woman. What's your next book?
All right. Well, as you were mentioning earlier, somebody's cheating this time, and it's not all Golden Age books, and that cheater's me. And y'all probably saw that cheesy smile on my face when he was talking about it. And I very rarely cheat on the Golden Age, but this Silver Age cover really blows my mind. I think it's fantastic. It is Silver Surfer Comics #4. It's a John Buscema cover, and it shows this situation where it's Silver Surfer and Thor at that moment right before that big collision. By the way, my copy is probably a 2.5 or a 3 because the back's got scribbling on it. But I bought it about 10 years ago for $20 at a Virginia Comic Con. And I haven't looked at the prices recently, but I know that they're hundreds of dollars even for low grade. So it was a really, really good buy. And I didn't know anything about the book at the time. I was just kind of flipping through. I was like, that is an amazing cover. And I bought it.
I paid about $400 for mine. And even in that time, it's doubled. And mine's a low grade too. It's a hard one to get in high grade because it's a square bound book. The funny thing is it presents really well generally, but generally the spine is cracked or has some issue because it is a square bound book. Mine's a 2.5. And that was the issue that I had, that the spine is kind of split.
Yeah. So common with that book. But yeah, in some ways, if you are a collector, that's not a bad thing because the book shows really well in Mylar, and you can get a book that's 2.5 or 3 that shows pretty well. Yeah. And sometimes books in those range sort of look like a rag. So yeah, not bad for collectors who are into good looking books. How about you, Alan? What you got next?
I'm trying to balance out whatever you're showing. I'm trying to balance it out. So your first one, you showed a people in bubble.
Yeah.
So I'm going to show my People in a Bubble comic. This is Planet Comics 39. I'm kind of hoarding Planet Comics right now. I'm trying to get into getting the whole run. Not the whole run, but maybe all the Good Girl covers, which was in the mid issues of Planet Comics. I really love the covers for some of the Planet Comics. So I've been trying to pick up a bunch. But this one is my favorite from the series. And this is a Lily Renee. She's actually still living. She's 100 years old, this artist. So she's like one of the few living Golden Age artists. And it's really rare that you have a female artist from the Golden Age. So she was kind of like a pioneer for women. This is just a great cover. It's got the spider web in the background. There's humans like stuck like flies in it. And it's got this really strong, sexy girl on the cover. The sci-fi elements to it. And I actually always like the bubble. I'm like, that's why was looking at that Starling comics. I like people in a bubble for some reason. I don't know, bubble boy kind of, I don't know, something about people in a bubble I kind of like. My comic is a little bit faded. If you get it in a high grade, like this is a mid grade or low grade, the greens are much more sharp and crisp in the real one. And it's just a striking cover. To me, the best of the series. I really love this cover. So this is Planet Comics #39.
Yeah, that's a great cover. Well, to comment on that a little bit, Alan, those Fiction House covers, actually, many of them, I think when they came off the printing press, didn't have great ink. Some of them did, some of them didn't. And so you'll see even some high grade copies that don't have great color to them. And so there's some collectors who are real finicky to say, hey, I'm not going to get a high grade book unless it also has good colors to it too. Across the board with Fiction House books at the time, so like Fight Comics and Jungle Comics and Planet Comics all have that particular issue. So if you find a copy of a Fiction House book in was that late 40s, Alan?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe I'm gonna guess like 44, 45 era.
Okay, mid to late 40s. But yeah, that entire era had those issues with the colors in it. By the way, kudos to you, Alan. I mean, I could just show about any type of cover, and your collection is so vast, you can match it up. Oh, Keston, you got a bubble cover? Here you go. I've got 20 covers that have bubbles on it.
Yeah, I try to balance it out with what I show.
Yeah. And Alex Schoonenberg too, he's famous for those bubbles, and it's either bubbles or like capsules. And so oftentimes it would be like either it's Bucky who's like in a missile, but you can see his face, or more often than not, it's some female who's like enclosed in a missile that's about ready to get launched. But yeah, he loves that sort of entrapment and like bubble or see-through missiles.
yeah. I've noticed that. That's kind of a weird thing. Yeah. Okay, what's your last book for this?
All right. Yeah, my last book is what I consider the most beautiful comic in all of the Golden Age, and that's Seven Seas Comics #4. It's a book by Matt Baker. It's also underwater. I have an underwater thing for some reason, but just amazing. And the way that her hair is flowing and the different color of the water behind it and the shark and the curvature, it just really does it for me. And it does it for a lot of collectors too. This book a few years ago wasn't too expensive, but now it's selling for easily 2.5K per point, and sometimes higher than that. A really, really tough book to get to. So this is a much harder book to get than those Starling comics that I was talking about before. For probably every 5 Starling comics of a particular issue, there's probably one of those Seven Seas books. So a hard book to get.
Yeah. No, I haven't had any luck getting even a single issue from Seven Seas. And whenever I see them, usually I find that they're in that $4,000 price range. They're just really pricey books, just hard to get. Matt Baker is great though. And I think Seven Seas is really him at his peak in terms of his covers.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And another piece too, Alan, that cover and one other are my favorites from him. It's called Cinderella Love #25. And
I was looking for that book yesterday.
Oh, well, this is
great cover.
I'm going to post this after the auction ends, but I've got it's a 4.5 that's up there. I've got a bid for 12 grand, FYI, and it's not going to win. Wow. It's not going to even be close. I'm going to guess that book is going to sell between 15 and 20. If I get it for 12,000, we'll throw a party. We'll have a Matt Baker celebration party here, but don't think it's going to happen. But yeah, it's just such a beautiful like party cover. Kind of reminds me of like party
carnival or something, Mardi Gras or something. Yeah, it has that. Yeah, I love that cover.
Yeah, and he just sort of capture women's faces in this sort of amazing way, capture their expression like no artist really could. I would say he's the most famous romance artist in the late 40s and early 50s. Yeah, just an incredible guy.
Seven Seas and that Cinderella, those books are pretty pricey. But some of his romance stuff, which in a way he's kind of the king of, are actually pretty affordable. And when I say affordable, like I'm talking Matt Baker affordable. So like Phantom Lady is like a $10,000 book.
Right.
When I'm saying affordable, I'm saying a few $100 for like for some of the romance ones, and they're really great covers. Like they tell like a complete story on the cover. I just love that, and his romance stuff is just amazing.
Yeah, well, he's similar to Schoonenberg in the sense that he's got so many great covers out there that you can usually find a deal in the ones that are not sort of the top tier, well known. But they're amazing in their own right too. And yeah, you're right. So you can, for $300 or $400, you can get a lot of those covers and mid-grade that are nice. Yeah, what he draws, it was like the people are always going to look good, and he's especially good at drawing women.
One thing I'd like to ask you, and this is kind of a controversial question because it's kind of considered one of Matt Baker's most famous covers.
Yeah.
Phantom Lady 17.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's actually a Matt Baker. So I think it's an Al Felstein. Just the way the woman's dress is done, it's much more like Al Felstein or Jack Kamen than it is like Matt Baker's style. But it's always attributed to Matt Baker. So I'm.
Woo! Yeah, this is a controversy here. Yeah. Well, actually, though, Alan, I agree with you. If you put those 3 books side by side, so Phantom Lady 17, Seven Seas #4, Cinderella Love #25, which one doesn't look like the other ones? And it's Phantom Lady 17. In fact, again, this is controversial because it's a really expensive book and a lot of people love it. I just don't think the artwork is as good. I mean, yeah, it's a bodacious lady on the cover.
Yeah,
you got that, but doesn't that lady does not have near the elegance of the other two, Seven Seas or Cinderella.
It's not his style.
No.
Like it's more of an Al Felstein style. Al Felstein did these things where the headlight cover doing this weird hand motion. He did things where he kind of drew the breasts in a certain way. Okay. Matt Baker really toned down. Like he drew things where it's much more elegant in terms of the way the woman's body was shown,
Yeah.
and that. So I think it doesn't really suit his style. I really
Yeah.
don't think it's him. So it's one of those controversies I've heard like both sides. So I was just putting it out there to get you in trouble.
Yeah. I agree with you. And I'm not saying I would turn down a copy of that book. I think it's, a cool
No, I
book.
wouldn't either.
I understand that. I mean, let's say that the books cost the same grade for grade. I would take Seven Seas or Cinderella Love way before I would take Phantom Lady 17.
Actually, I saw a very low grade Phantom Lady 17 for $12,000.
Yeah.
Very low grade, like a 2 or a 1 or something, really low grade. So, wow, that's how expensive Matt Baker is. Great artist. Okay, so
Great art.
that's it for this first part of the series. And we're gonna do part 2 on Keston's channel. So I definitely recommend you click the link below and pop over to his channel, because you don't want to miss the next 5 covers. They're just going to be there. We'll try to blow your mind. That's the goal. So thanks again, Keston, for coming on the show today, and I'll see you over on your channel.
Great. Sounds good. Thanks, Alan.